And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes, and I am here to talk about the market. So, I plan on doing market videos every couple days for NBA 2K22 My Team. You know, especially early on, the market is very important to know how to operate and what cards are expensive, what cards will go up in price, etc. So I'm trying to provide that information for you guys. So regardless, like what you play, if it's mostly offline grinds or online grinds, there's cards for every price range that'll be helpful. And there's cards for every price range that might not be so helpful. Now, that being said, every card has value in the right hands, so you should never really look at a card and be like, yeah, this card sucks and there's no reason I should ever use it, because those cards you might even find out you're good with. It's happened to me a lot. Now, especially in the Flash set, there's been a few guys that I think fall into both of those categories. Look, the flashbacks, if you haven't watched my pack opening video, please do. But the general thing that I speak is these packs are horrendously priced and they are not worth opening because the odds are so bad. I mean, for example, look at Aiden Ross. He opened like $4,000 worth of these packs to try to get to Kimbe or whatever. And he didn't get very much. So if that guy who 2K would have every interest in the world in boosting the pack odds for isn't getting anything, you're probably not too. So something to think about. Now, looking at the glitch players are very interesting this year because unlike previous years, now all the glitch cards can get every badge in the game. Granted, they only have a small amount of badge slots, but they can get every badge in the game. Any badge you want to add to them, you can. Duncan Robinson is very good. Now, he's a card I recommend picking up regardless what your team actually looks like, and the reason for that is just because it never hurts to have an overpowered Sapphire on your roster. Now, this is still like season 1, so is he going to be an overpowered Sapphire for the rest of eternity? No, probably not. You know, he's not going to be the Daquan Cook of Sapphires, but he is very good. If you remember his Sapphire card from last year, like that card was usable in Limited for a pretty long period of time, and it looks like now in at least TTO and Unlimited, like matchmaking kind of works. So if you're using a lower overall team, for the most part, you should run into people with similar, you know, player gem level, I guess. So having a OP Sapphire isn't really that big of a deal, and it's actually kind of helpful in certain regards. But the cheapest price I think he's going for right now is somewhere around 3,000, which is still like very expensive for a Sapphire, and it should tell you like how bad the odds to pull these glitch player cards are. Because, like, if we have a Sapphire glitch player, the lowest gem tier in these packs, and even that is going for 3,000, that should tell you all you need to know about these packs, like, straight up. They're not good. People are not even pulling Duncan Robinson. Like, if this was a normal pack, think back to every pack we've gotten this year. I mean, all the Sapphires have been ridiculously expensive. Even, like, Marvin Bagley's relatively cheap, you know? And Duncan Robinson is not. He's more expensive, or at least the same price as Lauri Markkanen, which is crazy. That's a ruby, you know, it's like harder to pull in theory. But either way, Duncan Robinson is a beast. Now looking at James Worthy is relatively inexpensive. I almost clicked Justin James. I wish we got a Justin James card. Josh Jackson's my boy, though. I hope we get some Josh Jackson love out here at some point. James Worthy is relatively solid. I've seen a lot of people say that he's still a little bit more expensive. These packs suck, dude. Like, there's no reason James Worthy... He is, like, one of the cheapest rubies with Lauri Markkanen, but, like, still, God. How many people open these packs and he's still, like, 3,000? Like, it's crazy. 6'9" combo forward, though. You guys know how I love to use that term. He's overall super solid. Now, he's not the greatest three-point shooter, but he does have kind of an easy-to-green jump shot, which is fine. I do miss his old jump shots from like 2K20, 2K19, but it's fine. He's altogether just super okay at everything. He doesn't really excel in any one thing. He is like pretty fast for somebody who's 6'9" at 81, but 70 speed with ball means you're not really going to be using him as a primary ball handler for the most part, unless you run like a slowed-up offense. Which, you know what? I'm going to make a whole video talking about skill gap in 2K22. And I will be talking about slow up offenses and stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. I don't know if I'm dropping it tonight or tomorrow. I think Professor Ludes is going to make an appearance. Yeah, I think he might. I have a new blazer I've been waiting to wear. Anyways, James Worthy, super solid overall. I mean, decent badge count. He's For 3,000, like, he's a very good combo forward to grab. I personally think he plays a little bit better at the power forward than he does at the small forward, though he does still need some badges to be really, really effective on the defensive end at the power forward. That's kind of the one issue there. But he can get a lot of badges in this game. And he plays well in the post. That's another thing. Like, if you're a post player and you need someone who's a little bit faster but can still play in the post, like, James Worthy's super solid. Rim protector and clamps are good ones. Obviously, rim protector would make a lot of sense, especially if you're looking to hold down the interior. Rebound chaser, posterizer, those are good badges to give him. He's not the greatest dunker, but it's something to think about. Mouse in the house. Maybe. He's 6'9", so I don't think you're going to run into smaller defenders too much, but if you play him at the small forward, that's a pretty good badge to add him. Chances are you'll run into at least a couple people running like a small forward, so that badge will be very effective. Now, Darius Miles. Now, look, I like this card a lot. For whatever reason on PlayStation, he seems to be significantly cheaper. I don't really know what that's all about, but I've seen people get him for consistently $5K on PlayStation, but on Xbox he's like $8K. So I don't know if maybe the player base is smaller on Xbox or what's happening, but the cheapest you're going to get him for is $7,800 on Xbox. That's actually kind of crazy, but 6'9", one of the most well-rounded small forward, power forwards in the game. I personally think he plays better at the small forward. But if you run a 5 out, it doesn't really matter where you play him. He's just not that good defensively. But overall, just mid-80s, all the offensive stats. Not a great ball handler, but he has a 79 block, 78 steal, 84 perimeter defense, solid, 74 rebounding stats, 85 speed, 77 speed with ball, 82 lateral quickness is solid as well, but it's not the end of the world. But the dunk stats are not the only thing we need to look at most of the time. Like, the dunk tendencies are important too, because if somebody has a 95 driving dunk, but then they have like a 15 driving dunk tendency, they're going to engage layups most of the time. So it's like really pointless to pick that guy up as a dunker. He's only going to dunk if he's wide open. 60 drive tendency too, which means he's not going to do those stupid, like, quick jump shots that people do too often anyway. Play discipline tendency is actually kind of important too. I talked about this a little bit last year in 2K21. Play discipline tendency essentially means how well he's going to follow the play, and it's going to determine the percentage of times where he disregards the play and kind of like goes off in an area that's like not supposed to be in that play, which does happen if you run plays and you notice your guys kind of like running all over the place. Now, the second thing is somebody with a play discipline tendency of 0, you'll notice that a lot of players in the late game will have play discipline tendencies in 0. Go back to look at 2K20. A lot of them have like 0. That means if you're running a 5 out, how likely is it that they're going to streak towards the basket for no reason? That's basically what that means. Now, as far as badges, Darius Miles can get every badge in the game. So depending what you want Darius Miles to do, you can badge him up to do that. I believe he has like 4 badge slots, 3 or 4 additional ones. So not a crazy amount, so you don't have a whole lot of customization here, but you can give him anything. If you want to give him limitless spot up, I do recommend that. He's a really good catch and shoot player. His jump shot is a little bit slow. Quick first step being how good of a dunker he is. It's not really a terrible badge to give him either. Anything realistically is good to give him. Like, you can completely customize. I don't know what words those just were, but you can completely customize the way you want Darius Miles to play. He's very flexible. Now, as far as Peja goes, I've seen a lot of people say they ruined Peja. I mean, it's accurate, but I think if they gave Peja a good jump shot, he would have broken the game. Like, truly, I do. So I'm glad that he has weaknesses. Like, I'm glad he has kind of an iffy jump shot and he has like no ball handling and isn't that fast, because if he had all 3 of these things, he would be the most broken card in this game. So that being said, he has Hall of Fame limitless takeoff. He dunks so hard, especially if you're somebody who uses the dunk timing aspect pretty frequently. You're going to like Peja Stojakovic. Is he really better than Julius Erving? That's tough, but he does bring a lot more shooting. Look, set shot 4 is a pretty bad jump shot. Like, it's not a good jump shot what Peja has, but if you can get the timing down, he can be a lethal player on your team. So that's kind of what I mean. Some players, in reality, seem, or in theory, I should say, seem kind of bad. Then in reality, they're good for you. Peja might be one of those guys. He's only like 10K. So, Dikembe Mutombo, look, he is the most broken card in this game. He does have kind of a slow jump shot, but he also is a mountain of a man and shoots threes. If you run 5 out, he's going to be the best center in the game. from a purely 3-and-D standpoint, Dikembe Mutombo is a god tier card right now. Now, look, if you have been playing 2K for any number of years, you know how this goes. Look, they released Dikembe Mutombo, right? He will be the best center in the game for like 2 weeks, and then they will come out with either a budget version or a different version of a card that'll be good. Chances are it's going to be someone like a Andrea Bargnani who will work just as well, just not as good defensively, or a Kristaps or a Karl Anthony Towns, or even a Kevin Love. Fred VanVleet is basically a budget version. I don't want to say he's a budget card because he is over 10K, and that's still kind of a lot of MT at this point to spend on a card, but he's very similar to the Diamond Chris Paul that came out, slightly worse. But he's a complete point guard. He can do a little bit of everything except dunk. If you're a dunker, obviously you don't want him, but if you need someone to steal the ball, play defense, shoot threes, facilitate, he's got you. Kawhi Leonard is super expensive. I mean, the low end, he's around 29, 30K, which is a lot. But I will say, similar to Diamond Paul George last year, he will have some longevity just being Kawhi Leonard. So, something to think about. He's a great 3-and-D small forward, and he has a lights-out jump shot. Derrick Rose is without question the best point guard in the game for certain play styles. Now, for you personally, depending how you play the game, someone like Chris Paul or even Darren Williams might be a better point guard, especially if you're a 300. Darren Williams is probably a little bit better. If you run your point guard in a more traditional fashion, someone like Chris Paul is probably a little bit better. He plays significantly better defense. He facilitates a little better. Now, if you're somebody who attacks the rim or relies heavily on speed, Derrick Rose is the best point guard in the game, and he probably will be for at least a little bit of time. Like, just being honest, like, Derrick Rose is fire. Should you spend 150K? I personally don't think so. Like, I don't. I know it's tempting. I love Derrick Rose, but I never buy Derrick Rose cards until the end of the year. And the reason for that is Derrick Rose is always the best point guard in the game for like 2 weeks. And then they come out with something else. Like Derrick Rose last year, best point guard in the game. And then Stockton dropped in like 2 weeks. So chances are they're probably going to drop something stupid in 2 to 3 weeks that's going to be slightly better than Derrick Rose. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pick him up because he'll still be usable at that point, probably, more than likely at least. But it's like, is it worth spending 150K on this Derrick Rose card and then they come out with like a Steve Nash who dunks and also shoots threes and also plays defense, like a Steve Nash version of that Stockton we got last year in like 2 weeks? Is that going to be worth it? Probably not. Bradley Beal's still really good. His price hasn't fallen too much. You're basically seeing all of these primetime cards go way back up in value, which I think is kind of interesting. I didn't really expect it too much during the little market crash we had, but we're seeing Tim Duncan go right back up to 100K, and I think that's because he's the best post-playing card in the entire game, so anyone who wants to do post stuff is going to want to grab Tim Duncan at this power forward. He also plays good defense. Chris Paul was at like 80K, now he's at 100, so if you did grab him for 80K, you do have the opportunity to make a little bit more MT. I think it's probably worth it if you did grab him just to ship him off, but at the same time, if you ship him off for 100, you bought him for 80, and then you go pick up VanVleet because he's just like a slightly worse version, I don't think you make that much MT, so that's not really worth it. Darren Williams is one of the better three-point hunting point guards that we have in this game right now. He's still good. Ray Allen's still fire. I mean, if you're running Ray Allen, he's still going to hold it down and be good for you. There's no reason to panic and make a change there, personally. I mean, LaMelo's still good. I still use him. My team is like, I have no diamonds. So if you are looking for token advice, like Dario Saric and Brian Cook are both really good big men that you could pick up for your team. Now, Brian Cook, on the other hand, like, I didn't realize how good this card was, so I apologize for not talking about him earlier, but he is a great catch and shoot big man. Wet balls 3, I mean, it's kind of a slow release, but he can wet from the corners. Devontae Graham and Tim Hardaway are both really good. Fournier and Jalen Rose are good. Shockingly, Mitchell Robinson, from what I hear, is very good too. He's a great defensive center. If you're looking to contain someone like a Mutombo, like, he's probably pretty decent. Talked about the Sapphire guys enough. I don't really need to go into detail about them. Limited warm-up week 2. We have a gold Evo Joe Ingles, and I highly recommend trying to play this challenge and getting Joe Ingles because he does Evo to an Emerald, and he will be one of the best standalone Emerald cards in the game with 10 Hoff badges, a wet shooter. Joe Ingles base is always really good in the beginning of the year, too, because it's faster, and it's a great catch-and-shoot release, too. Shout out to Mills, who loves Joe Ingles base. I knew he was grinding for this card. But look, it's definitely worth picking this card up, especially if you plan on doing stuff like lower overall cheesing or limited. If you're doing either of those two things, Joe Ingles is going to be a lifesaver for you. As always, it has been your boy Cheap Ludes. I appreciate all you guys for watching my videos. I'm going to try to come out with some more this weekend. I just have a bunch of stuff to do. I've been like so busy and sick, so trying to get as much content out as possible. And I ordered a PC, so I'll be streaming a lot more soon. Peace.